Supposing I asked you to play all the C notes on the guitar, how long would it take you to find them or to work them out? Unless you have some sort of system, it's actually quite a tricky task, because the layout of notes on the guitar fretboard appears to be fairly random. Hard to spot any particular pattern there, isn't it? But there is one, and once you've learnt this pattern, you can use it not only to find all the C's, but you can use it to find the positions of any given note. For example, all the G's. Or all the E flats. Neat trick, eh? Well, it is a good trick, and it's a trick that we're going to teach you in this lesson, so by the end of this lesson you should be able to do that. The key to it is a pattern we call the CAGED system. It's called that because it relates to the 5 open chords C, A, G, E and D, conveniently spelling the word caged. Now let's have a look. Let's start with the C chord. So play a C and then work out which 2 notes in that chord are the root notes. Root note means the note after which the chord is named. So in this case, the note C. You can try working this out purely by ear. That note sounds kind of basic to the chord, so I think that's one of them. And that sounds like an octave. So I'm going to go for that note on the 5th string, that note on the 2nd string to get my octave by ear, root note octave pattern. Or you could use your knowledge of the open string names and the chromatic scale to figure out where those notes are. So for example, you're holding down all 6, you're holding down 3 strings there, but you're playing all 6 strings. That 6th string, that's obviously an E because it's an open E. 5th string, we're fretting at the 3rd fret, so that's A sharp, B, C. There's a C. Okay, next string, that's D sharp, E. Next string is open, G. Next string, B, C. Okay, so there we are. Could have worked it out that way. Either way, I hope you've ended up with this pattern, and the best way to play this pattern is with the 1st and 3rd finger, sticking to our 1 finger per fret rule. Now once you can play this pattern, once you've worked it out, try moving that up the fretboard, and wherever we move that pattern, you'll hear it's always an octave, and we always refer to it as the C-shaped octave pattern, because this pattern reminds us of that basic C chord. So that's how we derived the C-shaped octave pattern. Okay, so let's put that to one side for 1 minute and ask ourselves what letter comes next in the word caged. The answer's A. So let's look at the A chord, the basic open A chord. So there's our A major chord. Again, we want to pull out the root notes. Well, this is a little easier because we've got an open string root note effectively there on the 5th string, and then we've got an A there on the G string, G sharp, A. So this root note pattern has these 2 notes, and again, fingering is important. We're going to use the 1st finger to hold it there, even though of course we don't need to hold that down there because it's an open string. In terms of remembering the pattern, it's a good habit to just put the finger there to remind you that that's where the string is stopped. So then we can move that pattern up the fretboard 1 step at a time And again, wherever we play that octave pattern, we refer to that as the A-shaped octave pattern. Now, next in the word caged is the letter G. So let's look at the G chord. This one has 3 root notes. Okay, so on our E string, E, F, F sharp, G, we've got a G there. And we've also obviously got one on the top E string as well. And the third one is our open G. So when we're playing the G chord, our 3 G notes are there on the 3rd string, and there on the top string. Very, very awkward pattern to move around. Don't worry, you don't necessarily need to sort of play this as a held down pattern like a chord shape. It's more a question of understanding it and knowing where it is. But again, I want you to get used to a strict system of fingering. So I'm going to ask you to use your 1st finger to play this open G here. 3rd finger, big stretch to grab that one there. And notice I don't try and keep that down while I do that. I let that one go to grab that. And then top string with the pinky. And then we can move that shape up the fretboard like that. I know this is technically a little awkward to play. No need to rush it. It's more a question of understanding it than physically being able to play it at this stage. Worth noting that it's kind of made up of 2 octave patterns, that one plus that one. That's a good way of thinking of it. Okay, so that's our G shape. I should emphasise that at this stage of this lesson there's no need to actually memorise the detail here. It's more a question of just understanding a process of how we're deriving these octave patterns from the original chords. There'll be plenty of time to learn the detail later on. Okay, let's move on. The next letter in the word caged is E. So there's the E chord, and this again has 3 root notes. The open E on the 6th string, an E at the 2nd fret on the D string, D, D sharp E, and another E on the top E string. So the way we finger this is 1st finger on the bottom string, 3rd finger on the D string, 1st finger on the top string. This is important, and you'll see why later on. We want to leave that finger fixed while this one moves. And again, we can move this shape up the fretboard a step at a time. Always in the same way if possible, using the same fingering. So that's the E shape. Now, last but not least, onto the D shape. This one, again, quite easy to find the bottom root note. We've got an open D there on the D string, and our other D is there on the 2nd string. You've got B, C, C sharp, D. So notice this time I use my pinky to reach there, again thinking 1 finger per fret. So 1st finger on the open D there, pinky on the 2nd string, and I can move that shape up the fretboard, and that's the movable octave pattern that we refer to as the D shape. Okay, so now let's see how we put all these elements together. First, we start with the C shape. So remember, the C shape started here on the 2nd string 1st fret and 5th string 3rd fret, and we're fingering that 1, 3. Next thing you do is replace your 3rd finger with your 1st and ask yourself what letter comes next in the word caged. So C, A. So the next shape is the A shape, and that looks like that. 1st finger picking up from the C pattern there on the A string at the 3rd fret, 3rd finger on the G string at the 5th. Then once again we replace the third finger with the first, and we've done C, we've done A, so now we're on G, and this is the big stretchy one. With my third finger I'll reach for that note there on the 6th string, and notice that's an extra stretch. That finger would naturally fall there, but we make it go one further, and if necessary let that one go to get to that. Then the pinky can come down there on the top string, so that's C, A, G. Let's just go back over that a second. We'll come back to the C shape. Replace our third finger with our first. Play the A shape. Replace our third finger with the first. Big stretch. Play the G shape. And then once again, you can see the pattern developing. We replace our third finger with our first, and we're looking for the E shape. Leaving that third finger there because that's our link to the next shape. Hop the first finger across to the top string so we get all those 3 in there. And once again, replace the third finger with the first. Final shape is D, which is the one we use our pinky for, on the 2nd string there. So at that point we've completed the word caged. I'll just run through that once more. From the C, replace the third finger with the first. A, replace the third finger with the first. G shape, big stretch. Replace the third finger with the first. E shape, leave the third finger there where we hop the first finger across. Replace the third finger with the first. D shape. Having finished the word caged, we simply start the word again. So this time I replace my 4th finger with my first, and then I start with the C shape again. Replace my third finger, A shape. Replace my third finger, G shape. At which point I've run out of guitar. So on my guitar, that's as far as I'm going to go. If you've a 24 fret guitar, then you could probably fit another one in. But basically that's as far as I'm going to get. So that's the pattern for playing all the C notes on the guitar. You may have noticed that the method I'm using, I do actually repeat some of the notes. So for example, when I played the C, I played that note, and then I use that note again as part of the A pattern. And then that note I use again as part of the G pattern. And both these notes I use again as part of the E pattern. Now it's important to play it like this because actually we're learning 2 different things simultaneously. One of the things we're learning is the first sort of trick that I explained to you, of just joining together all the notes of the same name. But the other thing we're learning is a positioning system that actually applies to all sorts of things that you're going to learn on the sort of advanced level of guitar playing, to do with chord shapes, to do with arpeggios, and to do with scales. And it's fair to say that you can fit almost any scale pattern, chord shape or arpeggio pattern into one of these 5 cage system shapes. So each individual shape is itself important both to memorise mentally and for your fingers to be very used to sort of playing as a separate shape. So hence the way we drill this, repeating some of the notes.